Attack on Titan is a series that is made to criticize modern society and the ways in which the different powers and structures are built. Isayama, the author, has been putting tremendous effort into making sure that these structures are felt through the characters that are relatable. This transforming series has touched the hearts of many, and the curiosity towards some of its characters ever growing. Series of this genre tend to use its characters as mean to getting to the audience, either by creating a cast that is relatable or by just straight up breaking the boundaries of the impossible. I mean, we're talking about anime, and to be honest with myself, one character that caught my eye was none other than the one you saw when you clicked the video. So now let's talk about Zeke Yeager, aka the Beast Titan. So, Zeke Yeager, the brother of Eren Yeager, son of Grisha Dinah Yeager, is one of Marley's most proficient warriors, one whose capacity for destruction is held in high regards in the Marleyan military and is a sign of fear amongst other nations. His goal was to bring to an end the lineage of the subject of Ymir by modifying the bodies of the Eldians via the power of the founding Titan. So, how did Zeke Yeager, the prodigy, develop to become the beast? Outside the inner walls lies sure death, as the inhabitants of the outer walls, the Marleyans, despise and mistreat the Eldians. They were forced to be in ghettos within the Marleyan Empire. They suffer racism, abuse, and it's pretty much a part of their daily lives. And even amongst the young ones like Zeke, he also is a victim to the slurs of the adults who live outside those walls. At any moment of his life, Zeke's survivability depended on his behavior in that enclosure. The military forces of Marley are not helping their cause either, sending them to war as titans never to be recovered or with little to no honor for their sacrifices. But Zeke was not called Wonder Boy for no reason, as he possessed royal blood. Before moving to Paradise Island, Grisha Yeager had a child with Dina Fritz, who later on changed her name to Yeager in fear of having to become another tool to be used for the Marleyan Empire. Grisha's goal was to revitalize the Eldian Empire by using his own son to become a spy within the Marleyan army. It is obvious that he isn't really fond of becoming a warrior. He's timid, fragile, and does not know right from wrong, to be honest. His father teaches the innermost parts of their ancestry, the lies that he and a multitude like him must live by to survive. Zeke also spends a lot of time with his grandparents, who have become fully indoctrinated within the Marleyan customs. They teach the history that the majority of Eldians go by to justify their suffering. The subject of Ymir must atone for their sins that come blah 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 blah, yeah. We also know of his unadaptability within the Marleyan regime. Because of this, it was very difficult for Zeke to create a genuine bond with his father and his mother, who constantly remind him of the lies that Marley has told to the citizens. On occasion, his enthusiasm towards the stories taught to him are nothing but an act, in search of recognition for what he thinks is good behavior. But a child isn't meant to be a fighter. In his parents' eyes, he was born to become one. His timidity surfaces when he's facing his parents with different goals. A child is meant to choose what he wishes to fight for, but Zeke doesn't know his place anywhere within the walls of Liberio, outside the walls of Marley, and let alone as a free man. I'll remind you one more time, I know I'm getting annoying, but Zeke is just a kid who wanted to live a normal life. His motivation came from people who never saw him as a person of his own, but as a weapon of potential disaster. For Grisha, the hopes of the future Eldian Empire rested within Zeke of royal blood. For the military, his expectations of warrior candidateship, and his grandparents the honorary citizen. Torn apart by what others consider to be the truth of the world, it transformed him into becoming a child whose motivation to become his own person have been crushed under the pressure of those ideas. Seeing, hearing, and feeling the pain of those around him while constantly asking the question of why? In order to answer that question, we need to take a look at his younger brother. When it comes to family ties and relationships in Attack on Titan, a recurring theme is proposed to the watchers. One that I think anyone can relate, draw conclusions and theories very quickly based on their own personal experiences. And that is the story of the older sibling. Let's take a look at the Reyes family. Historia and Frida Reyes have one of the most genuine relationships in Attack on Titan. Historia grew up on a farm and is the illegitimate child of Rod Race. Frida, who knew about the conditions of her little sister, chose to raise her appropriately and sympathetically, something that Historia's mother was never capable of doing. And her love for Historia never faded as she understood that her presence, if discovered, could be an enormous problem within the royal family and its dummy substitute. Frida was Historia's guardian against the wrongdoings of their father. She was her mentor to understand kind behavior, that same kindness that led her to become the role model to the subjects of Ymir on Paradise Island. But what about this relationship, and how does the royal family on Paradise Island make Zeke Yeager in particular more interesting and intriguing? Zeke's brother, Eren, grew up on Paradise Island, witnessed countless soldiers leaving the walls to their doom, with the exception of Levi and Erwin. Levi being the best soldier of mankind and Erwin being on demon time 24/7. He lost his mother in the first assault of Wall Maria, led by Reiner, Berthold, and Ani. He unconsciously consumed his father Grisha and acquired the Attack and the Founder Titan. He then goes on to join the Survey Corps, fueled by the desire to exterminate all Titans. Along the way, he witnessed countless of his peers and comrades be torn and wiped out by the monsters and put everything on the line with the power of the Titan to realize mankind's freedom. And after discovering the truth behind humanity and the power that he holds, he then goes on a mission to decimate the enemies of Paradise Island, even to go as far as to kill innocents. Eren was never forced to become the warrior the same way Zeke was. This is the path he chose, to be the one who uplifts his people and bring about a new era. Eren was always this way, the same way Historia chose her own path and her destiny within the royal bounds. But Zeke, on the other hand, was pushed against his own will to become the very archetype of the warrior, something that he never really developed in his younger years, living repressed of his desires to live a joyful life with his parents. This yearning dampened his zeal in pretty much every aspect of his life, the same way Frida, being of royal blood, was shackled to the will of the king to never wage war against the enemies of Paradise Island. This older sibling dynamic in Attack on Titan created bonds that shifted the events of the story, and made me, alongside many others, read with more attention Ishiyama's amazing work. So, to answer this question as to why, it is simply because each individual, more specifically Zeke in parallel to Frida, want to protect something dear to them. To protect them from the influence of parents whose choices in life was at their detriment in the long run. To safeguard them against the consequences of the past in order to see themselves as protectors of what is pure and innocent, instead of a perpetrator of lies and an instrument of war. With the exception of the memory manipulation of Frida, Zeke deeply wanted to be the older sibling that she was to Historia.
But if I try real hard, I can grow up to be like you?
No need! You're already perfect! No need to change a thing!
As Attack on Titan focuses on the idea of human interaction, it is pointing particularly at the results of depriving a person from freedom. Can a person be truly free from all burdens in the name of something that is greater than freedom itself? Free from the burden of living? I think this question can be answered through a very important character in Zeke's life.
トム・クサバー。本業は巨人学の研究者だ。ほら、君の名前は？
ジーク・イエーガーです！
Tom Xavier is an Eldian scientist in task of conducting experiments with the Titans. He himself, being the previous Beast Titan before Zeke, served as a mentor for the young man. Split between the opinions in the world that he inhabits, Tom gives refuge and solace by accepting Zeke as who he is, admiring him for his efforts and praising him for things that hold little value. He was his savior from the mind control others had on him and truly cared for him in a genuine way. A kind, compassionate, understanding, and forgiving person willing to goof around and remove all burdens that young Zeke had on his shoulders. In some sense, he was finding solace within Zeke, making up for his tragic past. It is still scary to think that, with the amount of kindness and generosity Dr. Xavier had, he was still deeply indoctrinated within Marley, and led Zeke to not only believe his parents never loved him, but also denounce them to the authorities. Grisha and Dinah were later on sentenced to be sent to Paradise Island, to be pure Titans.
愛さなかった。ジーク、君は悪くない。君は賢くていい子だ。
The moment Dr. Xavier felt the threat of losing his son once again, he crumbled into his deepest fears and came to the conclusion that saving Zeke was to give his parents away. At the end of his term, when Zeke was a proficient soldier within Marley, he then goes on to pass the powers of the Beast Titan to his protege. His passion for playing catch with Dr. Xavier even influenced his most lethal weapon of war via the Beast Titan for the Marleyan Empire. This is why Zeke chose this man as his father figure, because he is the man he wished his father to be but never got. Dr. Xavier, father to none, adopted Zeke Yeager at the detriment of his own parents, and became the man to teach him how to form a bond stronger than time itself. We witness how Zeke became the Beast Titan, and how his dreams made him in charge of many assaults against other nations. The memories of his father's rebuke reinforced his drive to go through with the euthanasia plan, a plan that is so closely related to his brother Eren that the mere idea that his father might have brainwashed him triggered in him to act like Tom Xavier towards his brother. Every interaction with Eren has been from a genuine place of desire to save his little brother from the clutch of their father. But what he didn't understand is that Eren is a demon. Unlike him, he grew up with the love and care that Zeke never got from their biological parents. Therefore, he saw him as a victim and not a potential threat to the world. Zeke Yeager was alone in his beliefs, and he was not only enslaved physically by the military of Marley, but mentally through the discipline of his parents that he internalized, turning their resentment on life's suffering by crippling the reproductive systems of the subjects of Ymir. In the book Psychotherapy East and West, written by Alan Watts, he states that in order for an individual to achieve a state of liberation, he must be free from the state of hypnosis, and that it differs from person to person. But what he was trying to achieve reflects on the revolution against his father's ideologies, and not really a need or desire that he wants for himself. Seeing how his father apologizes to Zeke in the memories of the past opened up his eyes to the reality of what really happened within the walls of Paradise Island. It can be described as being tricked into insight. Zeke alone within the Marleyan family had to constantly ponder on the possibility that Eren was being twisted and manipulated by Grisha Yeager, and that Eren is now his responsibility. When in reality, Eren despised Zeke's plan more than anything. He sees it as being treated as cattle, nothing but livestock for war. In deeper understanding of the two brothers, it is evident that Zeke became everything that Grisha wanted him to be, but for all the wrong reasons. Zeke was drunk on the idea that stopping the subjects of Ymir will stop the suffering of the world. He finally realizes what Eren has been planning all along, and for the majority of the rumbling was unseen and unheard of. Then Armin makes an appearance, with a conversation that shocked me, but I'm sure many others also. Zeke is seen in a childlike state building a sandcastle. In that moment, we can truly see what Tom Xavier has taught Zeke in his youth, a basic scientific argument that explains the very existence of Eldians and all life forms, the different forms that life takes similar to the different forms that people have, and the adaptation that it has acquired by seeking numbers, spreading, and growing abundantly. I know I've been reminding you of a lot of stuff this video, and I'll do it again. Zeke has lived in fear his entire life. Fear of disappointment, fear of denouncing his parents to be part of the revolutionists, and fear of his younger brother to be like his father. After that much time spent within the paths, he pretty much admitted and confessed to Armin in a very subtle way. Zeke is not scared of dying, but he confessed to Armin that his fears lie within the madness of living. He questions Armin's reasons to live during the rumbling, and compares it to what mankind looks like when it seeks something more than life. For Zeke, it is fear. Within that realm, he came to envy the sand, the pebbles, and the air, and the things that really do not possess any vitality, because they also are not possessed by the fear of suffering. What he failed to realize is the results of the interactions between the things that do not have any life and life itself. That result is one of the highest values. Looking closely at any jewel, one beholds it in a reflection of all others. Alan Watts. Maybe Zeke had never grown out of his tragic past, but in that arc, he was a child who finally found his purpose once again. understanding the singularity and the shine that it reflects upon his eyes once again to see the truth behind his own behavior, and accept that his desires were to enjoy the little pleasures of life with the ones he loved, realizing the preciousness of life itself and the extension being the beauty of it and not just a fear that cannot be outran. And with that realization came the end of his suffering by the one who we were expecting within the series. And like most great series of this genre, we are met with the destiny of the beloved and the hated characters, the inevitability that follows any living being within the world of Attack on Titan. Foreshadowed by the strongest soldier of humanity multiple times within the series, the promise he made was fulfilled. In that moment, Zeke Yeager was truly trusted with the fate of humanity for the first time. For the first time, Zeke Yeager has chosen life for people who were just like him. This is the Beast Titan. This is Eren's brother. This is Grisha's son. This is Wonder Boy. This is Zeke Yeager.
Zeke Yeager desu!
If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe for more content. I really like making those types of videos and I hope everyone enjoys them too. Until then, drink a lot of water, stay blessed. GT out.